Welcome everyone to Skills Connect. I'm Siobhan Savage. Skills Connect is a podcast where we have conversation with the most bold and the most responsible change makers in the world. So welcome, Jason.
Thank you. No pressure, no pressure.
No,
But
not
like
at
I said,
all.
thank
Not
you
at
so much
all.
for having me.
So for folks, everyone knows who Jason is, but for anyone who's been hiding under a rock, Jason is one of the earliest folks that was a believer in what I was doing right at the beginning. So not only is he a fan favorite of my little babies from experiences at conferences, but also is one of the most thoughtful innovators of our time in anything connected to not HR tech, I would say work. I think Jason has been really leading the charge on our broader thinking around work tech and how work gets done and the innovation and transformation of work. Jason is a senior partner and a global leader at Mercer. How long ago were you doing Leap Gen? How long has been that transition from your
So it's
own
a little over
company?
it's just about 2 years, right? It's a little over 2 years right now. 2 years and a couple months.
Wow, that time flies, doesn't it?
It
And
does.
I
It's
mean,
crazy.
you've got over 25 years experience across HR, technology, transformation. You've partnered with the leading organizations in the world. And your sweet spot is really challenging folks in how to rethink, redesign, to deliver and evolve workforce experiences and transformation. Um, Recognized also as an author, a speaker, a thought leader. You'll see him on main stages at every major conference in the world. So welcome, Jason.
It's great to be here. And I think you're reading an old bio. I think the 25 years is probably being kind. But no, thanks for the kind words. Really, really appreciate it. And I kind of don't know that bold thing. I don't kind of know another way. So whenever I do
Yeah,
live events like this, I always just hope that I stay within the box and don't end up
yeah.
breaking some rule somewhere. So it's great to be here.
Rules are made to be broken, Jason. Like in this era of work, I think what's required right now is real rule breaking behaviors in order for us to really lead. We need to feel right. So I think you fit
Well, I
perfectly in the
think you know
bold and
that
responsible.
I broke a rule on my own podcast with Jess Von Bank, which got it the explicit label instead of a business label.
Oh, I
Now I
love
have
it.
an explicit label, so I'll try not to swear on the
I
pod
love
on
it.
your
I mean, you're
podcast.
dealing with an Irish woman,
Oh
so it's
yeah,
like.
that's true. And I was in Dublin last month. Yes, yes, it was fun.
I love it. I love it. So there's so much to ask and we've got so little time. So I'm going to try and keep us like focused on the stuff that I'm hearing everyone talking about right now. You have helped companies transform for decades. And we are in this moment, I believe, a once in a generation shift that's happening right now today. And the way that organizations are approaching specifically their strategy, their digital strategy, I feel it's broken. And I would love for you to really help us shape sort of what we should be thinking about, like what is broken in the way that folks are thinking, so that when they can really think about how to take some meaning and value from this session today, that they can hear you whisper in their ear, like Jason said, don't do these things because they will not work. So like would love to understand, like, what do you think is broken in HR strategy, work experience strategy today, and what are you seeing is really happening in customers and how they're feeling?
So thank you for that question. So first of all, I love interaction. So I'm going to try not to talk too much without having you jump in, because you and I together are going to be the accretive nature of this conversation. Yes, exactly. And I that some people showed up to hear me swear, I saw in the chat, which I'm
Yeah. Hey,
not
Bob.
going to do. Just intent. But so really quickly, I think and the way you said it is really interesting when you talked about this generational change. And I'm really, really thankful that I'm alive during it. Multiple people have heard me say that before, and I say it a lot because I didn't think it was actually going to change. So, I've been doing this in the HR tech, work tech space since I was 19. So that's over 30 years. And nothing's changed. Truly nothing's changed. I always tell the story that I started implementing payroll on mainframe DOS-based systems, and you don't even know what that is, DOS. Um, you know, as we move to Windows, as we move to cloud, client server, then to cloud, then into web, for the most part, HR has stayed the same. We've done little things like
Mhm.
self-service, but for the most part, we've been doing things the same way. We still have job codes, we still have FTEs, we still have pay bands and
Yeah.
salary bands, et cetera, et cetera. And every couple years, there's a tease like everyone's going to work from home. Oh, that's maybe true, maybe not true. Oh, it's the gig economy. Maybe, maybe not. Guess what? Jobs don't matter, tasks
Yeah.
matter. And what we're finally seeing in this transformative mode that you just explained here is not just work transforming, but the world
Yeah.
transforming. And it's really important that why this is going to stick this time compared to these other times is not because of work transforming, but because of the world transforming. Now, the challenge is that we don't know what it's transforming. Like we're all on a wild ride together, which means we need to be on a speedboat and a jet ski, not on a barge. Okay, which
Mhm.
all makes us look in the mirror at our organization and ourselves. And I say, where are we? Which gets us into so on that concept of transform, which is made up of mindset, skill set, and tool set. So, do I have the right mindset as a person and as an organization to change,
Mhm.
transform, change? Two, do I have the right skill set to transform? And three, do I have the right tool set? All while it's the rockiest time ever. And
Yeah.
that's kind of sums up where we are, which is why I'm so excited to be alive during it. Other people would be like, dude,
Mhm.
you're crazy to want to
No, I hear
do that.
you. I'm
But for
I'm
me,
I'm with
it's
you.
it's the most exciting time that we're going to have. And it's not a technology change.
Mhm.
Technology is a part of it. But everyone's like, it's AI, it's just IT shit stuff. Sorry. It's not IT. It's business. It's business. And it's us as humans.
Yep. Yep. No, and I a million plus ones you to like I feel that this is a privilege and a pressure all at the same time to do what I'm doing, that like we get to do this. Like we get to do this. And I just left a call 2 seconds ago with a really senior leader. And I said, you are a once in a generation leader. Like, how are you going to choose to lead in this moment? And he was like, what? And I was like, seriously, this is like a once in a generation shift. And how you show up and how you choose to lead in this moment is going to matter for generations, because the decisions that we make as leaders are going to impact whether or not we evolve our workforces or we harvest people out of jobs and just go straight. Like there is this choice that we're going to make in terms of how we lead and how we leave the world. And I think for you, you don't have to work, you choose to work, and you get to work on some of the the best kind of thinking and strategy. So I'm completely there with you. But what I am seeing though is like rabbit in headlights across the industry. I think a lot of folks are genuinely not sure about what does this mean for me, what does this mean for my company, what does this mean for my family, like the industry. Like there's so much uncertainty. How are you seeing how folks are dealing with kind of all of the changes that are happening?
So just really quickly, one of the things that's really important to understand and to think about from a mindset standpoint is when we say change, it's important to frame change is our strategy, it's not the enemy.
Mhm.
Okay. And I have to lean into the change, not back away from the change. Okay. So
Mhm.
in a world where everything's changing, like we are dealing with, and I'm not like hype, I'm not master hype here trying to say this. We're dealing with systemic change in almost every institution that we have: government, education, humanity, and then, oh, by the way, there's work.
Mhm.
Like you jumped right into work, and I was on a call earlier today where someone jumped right into HR tech. I said, can we just stop for 1 second and talk about the person, like the human?
Mhm.
Like every human is going through a systemic change to most of its systems, which is why we see those trust barometers as low as they've ever been, or we see consumer confidence as low as it's ever been because of that change. So, all of that being said, where most people are is they're looking to try to, what I like to say, see around the corner,
Mhm.
trying to see around the corner and say, how do I prepare myself, my family, my organization, my team for what's next. And that's how I see it. And it's really easy to make this too big. Okay, because I just made it really big. So, like, let's break it down. And one of the reasons I love what you do with tasks is starting to break things down, where let's not say, oh, we need all new people. Like, come on. Like, we need to rethink FTEs. Yeah, yes, we've needed to do that forever. We need to rethink performance management. Oh my God, we've needed to do that forever.
Yeah.
Like, yes, 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 yes. But let's
Yeah.
start with, like, let's see around the corner and realize where we are right now in April of 2025 and what we're going to need to be in June of 2025.
Yep. Yep. I agree. And I think the thing that I've seen, especially since I moved to the US, you know, a lot of talk about skills, a lot of, you know, and I think, you know, you've been pretty vocal about HR's obsession with skills. Like, where did that all come from? Was like, because I wasn't here in the market when that was all happening here. Like, we got the tail end of it in Asia Pacific, because when the US does stuff, the Asia Pacific, everyone follows, right? So where did this kind of skills moment come from? Was it hype? Was it a necessity? Like, what was happening there? And what do you think HR leaders are still missing when it comes to understanding sort of the skills versus the work? Like, what's your take? Because there's a lot of talk about skills and whether it was hype or not right now, right?
So to do this, it requires just a tiny bit, little tiny bit of history, which is just a switch from the manufacturing economy to the knowledge economy. So when I used to run supply chain and I used to manufacture products, it's pretty easy. A product has a SKU. A SKU for a bottle of Crystal Light drink squirt is this.
What is that?
Don't even ask. It's like stupid. It wouldn't be accepted in today's world. But yeah, we're trying to make America healthy again, right? But anyway, different story, different day. But all of that being said, like, we know what that is.
Yeah.
When we go from a manufacturing economy where I make this to a knowledge economy where I have a person, it starts to be, how do I measure the tangible value and makeup of a person? It's pretty easy to do that with a hard good. It's really hard to do that with a person. Okay, so when someone starts to say people are our main asset, like we've heard that all along, it's very easy for me to say, hey, guess what? My cup is worth this, but my person, what's it worth? Well, we pay them $100,000 a year. That's not what they're worth. That's what we pay them. So for a long time, Siobhan, we've been trying to think about, how do we put value on people? Okay, the human capital accounting of people. Okay, so instead of just counting heads, how do I make heads count? In order to make heads count, what I have to do is know what heads I have. Just like I know I've got 4 of those bottles of drink squirts. Okay, I've got 4 of what? And when I've got 4 managers, but a manager means X, Y, Z, and A, how do I put a value on that? And then how do I build a people chain like I built an old supply chain when I don't know what I have? I started a company quite a ways back called Knowledge Infusion with an amazing woman. Her name was Heidi Spierge. And she always talked about talent strategy, meaning buy, build, have, or outsource. Buy, build, have, or outsource. And one of the things we've been struggling with forever, Siobhan, is knowing what we have. And I don't have a 3 because that's what my performance rating was. So how do I measure the tangible value of people? And that's, to me, why I love the concepts of competency frameworks. Please note what I said. Concepts. I didn't say execution. Of competency frameworks, of skills, of tasks, of what makes up a person. I love that stuff. Yet to see is how we actually turn that into actionable executables to drive outcomes. And that's why I'm so excited about what AI combined with the right kind of thinking can actually bring to work.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I have found,
did all that babbling make sense?
No, it did, and it made me think about, like, the part that you said about knowing knowing sort of who your people are and the value unlock that they create for an organization, not directly correlated to how much you pay them, but like what is the value creation around an individual. And one of the things that I have found in my journey of building like Rejig was when we focused it, we all started in an era where the skills-based moment was a thing when the market was really hot and things were really good. And like, it was kind of like a really, like everyone was kind of going up and to the right. But what I had always been trained in, my background's in workforce optimization. So like I always started from the work. And then I had what was the work and what workers do we have to complete that work? And you know what's really interesting? And I look at back on my reflection, like I was an idiot because I should have stuck to that original concept, but I got into who are our people and what can they do, when actually it's the other way around. Like organizations, especially now in a world where efficiency, productivity, velocity is the most important thing, organizations need to understand like what is all the work and then what are the workers, because the workers in that moment could be sure your internal people and the value unlock and creation that they do, but it can be agents, you know, like it actually can be a fixed, a flex, an agile, a digital, like whatever way you want to describe the kind of workforce DNA. I think that has been a thing that has been really important. And given the cycles of the economy and like they're getting short, these ups and downs are getting closer and closer and closer together. Like you're up, you're down, you're up, you're down. Like it used to be that you had a pace and that you would have a lot longer and you knew we're coming into recessionary and then you would get our way out of it. But this is like intensely, and the narrative and I think a lot of folks that I'm talking to at the CHRO level and at the executive level are basically dealing with this kind of like consistent, like ricochet moment of like the world is rapidly changing. And to your point, like understanding like what is the work that we've got, but who are the workers and what is the value unlock in the creation they have is critically important. And it's not just about skill. It's actually like, it's the framework and that vision that you have. So I think you're one of the ones that moved the first I seen in market to truly get an expert in generative AI. Like you went head first, threw yourself into it to embrace that moment as well. When you look at it from your perspective, or maybe some of Mercer's global research, but like, are you seeing generative AI truly impact HR today? And will it, like, do you think this is real? Because I'm still having calls with customers where they're like, but it's like 3 years away. I don't need to worry about it today. Like, what's your take on that, Jason?
So Siobhan, thanks for saying all of that. So first of all, I look at things based on impact on people, not an impact on function.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then because what makes up the function? The people. So if there's a generative AI is a piece of technology, you know, and the first time that I'll never forget the moment exactly where I was in my home when my kids and I were sitting around the island of the kitchen and we went on to ChatGPT and did one little stupid thing. And they said, "Oh my God, I will never have to write a paper again." And what the moment to me that was so fascinating about that was like, if you think about Windows, like what? Like when we first rolled out, sorry, I'm going to get old for a second. When I rolled out Windows for Dummies training back in my day, no one said, "Oh my God, this is so cool." They said, "You actually just took away my ability to do heads down data entry, and now I have to use a mouse." And then when we went to cloud, people said, "Oh, no, we're never going to trust our data, et cetera, et cetera." In this case, they actually said, "Oh my God, I can actually see how this is going to change my life."
Yep.
Not IT's life, but my life as a human. So for me, that's the lens I look at it, Siobhan. And the reason when you say I dove head first into it, like first of all, I think anyone that doesn't dive head first into it is
Mm-hmm.
you're irrelevant. I mean, that's a very bold statement, but I really believe that. Like you're
Mm-hmm.
on the brink of irrelevance, because this is not something you hire someone to do. This is not someone you outsource, not something you outsource to IT. You have to embody it. I wrote a piece on my Substack the other day about this isn't about adoption. This is about embodiment. You
Mm-hmm.
embody a new way of being. Okay. AI just happens to be the technology that's bringing us there. So, Sharon, I think that it's going to change the entire body of work of every single company and every single organization in the world. Now, what does it mean to HR? It should be tied back to what is HR's biggest opportunity. Okay, so if I'm struggling about how do I figure out, I need to do a reduction in force, and I'm trying to figure out how to go about that. Before you start going about it the old way, go about it in an AI first way and say, hey, let's think about where my people are. Let's think about my data. Let's predict what I'm going to need before. And how do I use AI to do this? Or if I'm in an organization who's still delivering intranets and portals that look like link farms and aren't personalized to me, guess what? That's where I'd focus if my people are leaving because they say it's too hard to work here. But generative AI isn't going to, and AI is, by the way, the reason just something. I've been working in AI since I started doing payroll implementations when I was 19. Okay, it's this generative part that really has now become available because of compute power. But I don't feel like I'm new to AI. I feel like AI is finally something that HR people are
Yeah.
thinking about. They've just been using it for 30 years and not known it.
Yeah. The fact that a computer, I'll never forget the moment that I went into it and I was like, wow, a computer's talking to me. Like it was that like moment of like, wow, like that feeling of just like this. And my question mark that I remember where I was in Paris at the time, and I remember thinking to myself, like, if this is really real, like, there's a lot of hype around generative AI and marketing and stuff, right? So like you kind of cut through it, like, could this potentially do what I think it could do? And I went really deep, and I was building an AI company too, right? So like not new to AI, but like new to the concept of like not every user in the world can have access to a talking computer. You know what I mean? Like what could happen in a world where they're not just talking to me, that they're taking my work, that they're doing most of the grunt work for me. And I was obsessed because like I was thinking about it. But you know what happened to me not so long ago? I was hosting a workshop in the garage in New York, and we give folks access to like log in. It's a whole pile of HR leaders, and most of the room couldn't log in. Um, and that was a hey, okay moment. Like maybe we need to upskill the community a little bit here and like really educate, because if folks are really kind of expecting to call IT to do this for them, then our workforce transformation moment is probably not going to have the magic that it could have if folks are either dismissive of it, or so I think what you said where you were a bit cheeky was actually like, I think you're right. Like they have to, or they will be irrelevant because someone else will get that job and you won't. And that's why we're seeing a lot of CHROs in early retirement right now, because they need to usher in a new wave, in my opinion.
Yeah, and Siobhan, I do this. So I do about, I love your concept of measurement, of breaking down skills into tasks. And I know that's not what we're talking about today in detail, but as an example, I use that all the time in my day-to-day life, where today I do 62% approximately. I'm not anal by any means, but 62% approximately of my tasks using voice and not keyboard.
Wow, that's high. That's actually pretty high.
So 62% of the things I do, I try not to touch my trackpad or try not to touch my keyboard. I try to only use my voice with a generative AI filter between my voice and the machine. So
Yep.
instead of me learning how to use the machine's learning how to work with me. Okay. And if I can do 62% today, think about what I'm going to be able to do in a year, which
You're going to be a
basically,
cyborg.
well, I'm not going to be a cyborg, but I'm going to be a human who has a brain and it connects to a machine
Yeah,
instead of me learning how to use a machine. I should
yeah,
never even have to learn to sign on
yeah,
any system.
yeah,
Back to I
yeah,
should just say, I want to think about how do I optimize my workforce for the fact that I'm just announced I'm laying off 20% of my people in my manufacturing business, like Intel did earlier today.
yeah, yeah,
I should just say that and then have a conversation with the machine. I shouldn't learn how
yeah,
to navigate and use it. Uh, Bob just mentioned I did a post this weekend on my Substack about voice. That's all I talked about was voice and how much gets lost. Just think about this for a second. From your brain to your fingers to the keyboard. think about how much gets lost
Yeah.
versus if you can just talk and all of a sudden get something and get, a little addition to it with AI, and all of a sudden your thought becomes reality so much faster. Because I can't type. I'll never forget my fifth grade typing teacher, Virginia Roden, who I mentioned in my Substack. Like, I got up to about 35, 40 words a minute.
Yeah.
I talk a lot more than 35, 40 words a minute. And my brain
Yeah.
definitely does more than 35, 40 words a minute. So think about how much waste we're having in creativity.
Mm-hmm. No, that's actually, I've never thought about it like that. I'm gonna challenge myself now to be more voice dictating in a lot of my thinking and content and stuff as well. Indy, my little one's got dyslexia, and actually ChatGPT has been a game changer for her because she can now do things, and she's 7, right? And she has really struggled with reading and writing. Dyslexic, that kids with dyslexia have a really short framework of facts because they don't know, they don't learn and read as much as other kids, so they're not getting as much facts. So every day she's asking ChatGPT for new facts that she doesn't know so that she can process, and it's actually very cool. So I'm actually going to try that. Like I'm pin that article into the channel when you can, because I'm interested to read it, because I want to challenge myself, because I think you're right, especially like if you're an outside processor, like when you're talking to folks and you creatively think more and add on the more you interact with humans. I think you're actually right. The other thing as well, like I'm starting to see, and this is a very American thing I'm seeing right now, versus like the UK or APAC, it's not just generative AI, it's actually digital factories as well. So you mentioned about Intel, like there is a wave that's happening right now where CPG and FMCG especially are under a massive amount of cost pressure. And they're not just looking at generative AI from a knowledge worker, but they're looking at factories and creating these digitalized factories. I think that I mean, that is exciting, but then that becomes super scary to me, because I'm like, if this all collides at the same time, and if we haven't got our shit together in terms of workforce strategy, there is going to be impact, because where do folks pivot to? Like, what's your take on, am I being dramatic, or like, do you think that that's a real risk? Because I do.
Yeah. So three things. First of all, you said the SH word. So now we're
Yes.
even 1-1.
And it's my
So
podcast and no one can fire me. So it's
exactly.
like
So I'm not going to get in trouble just because you said it now too. But the second thing I would just say is that something that we do a Friday, Jess Von Bank, a colleague of mine and myself, and much more than a colleague, a friend and an amazing human in the space. Like, we do a live show every Friday. And one of the things we challenge our community to do, and I challenge my team to do here, is what I call, OBT, one big thing. And I think that the concept, when you said I dove first into generative AI, like, I challenge myself to do one big thing every day. Now, you don't have to start every day, you can start every week, but one big thing a week to change the way you think about how to attack a problem. Okay, so in order to start using voice, you don't just say, "Oh, now I gotta figure out how to use voice," like, and learn.
Mhm.
It's a mindset first, like, "Hey, what if I didn't do it this way? And what if I did do it this way?" Okay, and to me, that mindset gets you into that trying that one big thing and keeping track of it, and then making sure you record it and talk about it so that it reinforces it. But back to the shit part, like, that if we don't get our shit together, if I could just say it differently, since you said shit, we don't have our shit together. Like, every organization in the world right now is laying people off, and they're not the right people. Every organization in the world right now is hiring people, and they're not the right people.
Yeah.
Every educational system, almost, not
Yeah.
completely, in the world is educating people on things that aren't the right things. So
Yeah.
we don't have our shit together. But that's, to me, where we dive in. That's the opportunity for us to all dive in and say, how do we now get our stuff together so that we then do progress and stop, like I said, worrying about headcount reports and start worrying about, do I have the right people? And in order to say, do I have the right people, or know if I have the right people, I need to know who those people are, know what they're made up of, and know where I'm going from a North Star standpoint as an organization. So
Yep.
okay, I probably shouldn't have said you're irrelevant earlier. It's sticking with me. Or maybe I should have. But if your company decides you're not going to jump on AI for 3 years, cool. Just don't. But guess what? Then don't hire AI people because you're
Hmm.
wasting. Like,
Hmm.
oh, I think the cool thing is I better open up some recs for AI people. You have no idea what the F you're talking about if that's your approach.
Hmm. Yep. It's an interesting thing, like what you just said. Like imagine that you are someone like, you or me, and you're AI, not native, but you're kind of, your brain is programmed to do that. And a company wants to be seen to be doing AI first, and then they hire someone like you and I in there, we'll die. Because like we'll be in a situation where the environment as well, we need to be able to challenge. And I think some of the OBT, to your referencing point with the now of work, is like, in a world where most companies are not designed and are not there yet, how do people on this call, or leaders listening to this after, how do they navigate being in that world where they are the disruptor and status quo and no one's got their shit together? Because that's the other thing. It's like, how do we convince everybody that this is really important and now we need to do this, and also here is the mindset? Like, how would you prescribe the mindset for someone like me who is generally quite restless in terms of like being in a big company? And if I was an employee, I'd probably get fired right now. Like how would that work?
Yeah, I mean, so the important thing to me is to know what your box is, or what I call your barbed wire fence. So what you can run in and what space you have to run in before you end up killing yourself by, running into the barbed wire. We're working, and I'm doing our great friend Mark Coleman, who runs the Unleash conference. I'm doing an event with Mark, or at Mark's event, for one company that's asked me to come in and said, start with a blank canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Pretend there is no HR function except it's called HR.
Yes.
Start with a blank canvas, and
Yes.
what would you do? Forget our systems, forget our processes, forget our titles, forget all of that. Say, what would you do from a mindset, skill set, and tool set standpoint? So that's starting at a functional level. And then aligning that to your North Star is key. If you're an individual, back to what you were just saying, when you were saying, hey, I would get fired in a company. Like, no company, I mean, once again, I don't know what you called me earlier, bold trailblazer, or I just say things that I feel. No company takes care of you today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going against things I probably should not say. But at the end of the day, most companies care about what?
Money.
Money, or sustainability of their business instead, or their shareholders, or who invested in them,
Brand.
and things like that. So for me, if I'm a human and I'm saying, what do? I learn. And in an era where anyone can learn anything today for free, like,
Mm-hmm.
what a glory. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
like, we are so blessed to have that. Because I share the story when I speak. Like, my parents, I was so attached to their dumb encyclopedias. You don't even know what I'm talking about, but there was volume A, volume B,
I
volume
know,
C.
I'm not
Yeah, and I would like
young.
read them. I'd be like, why am I doing this? And it was because I was so attached to knowledge. But
Yeah.
but that's all I had access to. And maybe a
Yeah.
paper that came delivered on Sundays. Now the fact that I could, I mean, while I drive, which I'm going to do in a couple hours, and I actually know what I'm learning about today. I'm learning
Mm-hmm.
about something called stoicism.
Yep.
Okay, because my son, who's 20, talked to me about stoicism, and I don't understand it. So I'm going to have a
Yep.
conversation with ChatGPT while I'm driving to my other son's baseball game about stoicism to learn about it. Like, that is like I don't know if anyone realizes how privileged we are to have that for free,
Yeah.
but we all can learn anything at any time for free. And I
Yep.
laugh that people are still stuck in these, oh, I don't have a degree in that, or that's not what I was trained in, or I'm waiting for my company to train me. Like, stop. Just do
Yeah.
it.
I mean, even like I get asked all the time, I think it's because I'm a woman and I've got a company, and people ask me a lot of the time, like, how do you build a company? Like, blah, blah, blah. I had no idea what I was doing. I think I've learned so much because I've got like a co-CEO helping me run my company right now. Like I literally operate with like co-piloting my thinking on a regular basis on everything from P&L to margins to branding to content to product strategy to pricing. Like it's across the board. It really like, so like there has never been a more privileged era, in my opinion. It's so cheap to start a company. It's like really company is all about like brand community and distribution, and then serve them something that they really need. And all of the parts you don't know, you can figure it out just in time, which is what I do to enable me to do it. And I think that's it's such a privilege.
And I want to touch on that because Bob just put something in the chat, and I want to make sure that I tie it to it. Like, there's way too many people who are trying to see 5 years from now.
Mm.
There's way too many people that are trying to see, in my opinion, a year from now. Like, we've gone from a world where we've had roadmaps of how to do things, a 3-year roadmap, to a world where we truly have a navigational GPS that changes by the day. So at the heart of all of us, we're good humans. At the heart of all of us, we think we know what's best for us. We think we know what's best for our families. We think we know what's best for our careers. I encourage you to do it. And don't over plan, because when you try to start over planning, what you do is you miss, this is moving way too fast. And by the way, it's not going to stop. So it requires a different rhythm and pace for you to go with. That's as much as I could dance. I almost looked like I was dancing there for a second, but it requires a whole different rhythm and pace than what we're used to in our lives, which is, how do you learn something new? Like your one big thing. The reason I say one big thing a day for me is because I have vowed to learn one big thing about something that's related to me every single day. But when someone says, when's this going to end? I'm like, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a habit. It's a habit change that's required of us.
It's interesting
And
because,
now, might that wear us all? Sorry to talk over you. Might that wear us all out? Might that be too much change? I can't answer the human capability effect of some of this and what it's going to mean to people. We might be watching
yeah,
it already in teenagers, that they're overloaded with stuff and they're thinking differently and it's hurting their mental health. We might be watching all of that today. So I'm not
yeah.
talking about that. What I'm talking about is what I think we need to do as professionals to continue to grow our careers.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think there's one other dimension, I think, and Sanjay put it in the chat as well. Like one of the things I spend a lot of time, like totally hear what you're saying at an individual level to not try and think too far ahead. But the shadow side, if I can challenge you a little bit on this, Jason, the shadow side of not thinking ahead, or at least trying to create a data-driven picture for the future. So if you imagine, the organizations hurtling towards AI, and that how do we as professionals and leaders make sure that they're hurtling in the right direction? And there's going to be some level of, and what we're seeing, and why we've set up the work design collaborative for leaders, is because there's kind of that point that you said where it's like we're trying not to overwhelm the rabbits in the headlights, but then I have this opposite like kind of bipolar thing that I'm saying to them, which is that, and you also need to be trying to forecast because you're responsible for looking after everyone else. And I thought so deeply about this for quite a long time, is like, what is my role to play in this moment? And that's why bold and responsible is really important to me, because I don't want to be on the side of history that's just helping people harvest people out of jobs. Like what I've been kind of trying to think about is, how do we give people enough of a picture of, like, we know the work that's being done today. I know the maturity of the AI. I can tell you what the impacts will be. And if you make these decisions, then this is what my workforce looks like. So I think like a lot of what I'm trying to do right now is help the community rise, in the sense of give them understanding so that they can prepare leaders for that next wave. And it all comes down to like, how do we make sure that people stay relevant and how do we drive them? Because I was talking to a customer not so long ago, and they were telling me that they picked these jobs, right? And they were told from a consultant and they paid a whole pile of money to find out what is our future capabilities and requirements and skills for the future. And they drove everyone to these career pathways, right? And what they ended up turning around and saying was like, oh, by the way, guys, 2 years later, we got all that wrong and those jobs don't actually exist anymore. And all those people spent 2 years of their life, wasting the opportunity to be scaling. So how do we balance the world of not overwhelming and like that one sort of one big thing, but also trying to navigate and steer the org, like, because it's kind of like we're kind of trying to do two things. Does that make sense in what I'm asking?
It totally makes sense. And the way that I'll answer it is make sure the why, the way that I do this is, and the way that I encourage people to do this is to make sure that the why stays in front of you. So if you think about, have you ever seen those cars that have that, in the dashboard where you can see how fast you're going? Or do you know what I'm talking about? Heads up display. Sorry, I should be a little more tech savvy. But heads up display. That's your why. Not in the car case, but make sure that whatever you're doing, you keep your why in front of you. Are we implementing the system? Thinking about breaking down skills into tasks. I keep that in front of me and do it, which keeps me able to better position than if I 3 years. Or this is that stake in the ground, then I'm stuck. Earlier today on a board call that just lost all of their government contracts. They lost all their government contracts, which was 75% of their business. When they lost 75% of their business, when they lost 75% of their business, they couldn't do anything. They struggled. So because of that, you have to stay agile. And that's what's so, so important.
I think you and I had a technology glitch because folks were saying that the technology failed us for 1 second. So hopefully everyone got that. And apologies for, I don't know what happened there. It might be a plane flying over and the Wi-Fi doesn't work.
So it just in summary, I'm sorry about that. If there was that, I mean, keep the why in front of you. How do you keep people aligned? It's daily why. It's daily why. It's daily why. I'm freezing more. I'll stop moving.
Yeah, it's like it's too much active movement. One of the other things I think is going to be really important is like the leadership requirement for this new era is different. And one of the things I said, I probably feel maybe I shouldn't have said it so loud and should have been an inside voice thing, but I'm seeing a trend of a lot of CHROs now early retiring and a lot of shift at a leadership level. And, everyone talks about the future of the CHRO role and what does that look like? With HR now sort of expected to lead, because in the AI world, like you can't have the people in HR teams not connected to this. They have to be connected to the workforce transformation, to business alignment. Like, what should the role actually look like for a CHRO in the next 2 to 3 years? And there's folks that are starting to talk about this chief work officer. Like, what's your view on like, if I wanted to be CHRO for the top leading orgs, like what is the capability that we're going to need, and what's the mindset that folks are going to have to really be that once in a generation leader?
So there's 3 things that I'm going to say, and I get asked this question quite a bit. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Okay. The first one is to take HR out of your title. And to take HR out of everything.
I hated being called HR when I was in my previous career.
Yeah. Take HR out of your title and take HR out of everything that you do. And it's not because you did anything wrong. And it's not because you did anything right. It's because the world has changed. Okay, that was a job that was created when administration of people was the only thing that I did. And what we've done is we've kept layering stuff onto it to now say, why is that doing this? It's getting rid of that concept of HR, first of all, because ask any employee when HR calls, what do they think? They're scared to death. That's not the position you want to be coming into as a leading part of an organization. The second thing is that we have to, within the people function, break silos. We have to think east-west, not north-south, which means we can't think recruiting, comp, learning, talent management, operations, and then, oh, by the way, this group over here, they really know the people and they're focused on the experience. Like, what?
Mhm.
It's one human, not 10 humans. It's one human. So stop talking about COEs as the function that does like this, and that's all they do. And then, oh, if you want to talk to someone else, you have to go here. Because that's not how prompts work. I'm going to tie it back to just how do we experience life. I don't go to a chat GPT for finance, a chat GPT for accounting, a chat GPT for X. I go, so east-west, not north-south. And then the third thing that I would say is that you have to be data first. Because those with the best data win, not the most
Yeah.
data, but the best data. So by establishing your why, by knowing where you're going, what data do I need to be able to execute that and make it
Yeah.
your top priority,
Yeah.
not your part-time priority. And I don't care how you get the data, voice, input, paper, scan, OCR, whatever. But if you don't have data, you're not going to live going forward. You're not going to be able to survive. So those to me are the three things that I would say to any CHRO, whether they were about to retire or whether they're new entering the space.
Mhm. I completely agree with you. One of the things that we have found from moving into the US market and growing so quickly is the data issue is such a real problem. And the way that we're talking to customers is that if you are truly wanting to build in this new era of work and build an AI powered workforce, that you need the critical infrastructure to enable that. And it doesn't really matter so much. Like, and I've built a marketplace, so I can say this, like, the UI doesn't really matter. We should all be building for a world where I can, as an employee, I'm going to demand that you have an agent that can go and tell me about everything from my payroll to my annual leave to like what my career looks like. And all of this will be foundational on having really strong data. And the reality is that no customers have good data, like that there is this massive issue around data. So really solving that problem, it's not another technology thing. It's actually, like, to your point, like, let's get the data, make sure that they've got good data. It's not like how many data points you have. It's actually good quality data that helps you make good and fair decisions on how you move work to worker, how you make decisions on all of your strategic workforce strategy, how you think about the business. Like, I think that is going to be the most important thing. And the race to that, I think, is what's on now. That I think most leaders have got to that headspace where they know that data is going to be required for this new world. So it's created that critical event in the market as well.
Siobhan, people ask me like every day that I speak, like tomorrow I'm speaking at a baseball stadium. Every day I speak, I say this: digital doesn't equal technology. And they always ask me like later, like, why do you say that? Why have you been saying that for so long? There's a couple reasons. First of all, to change people's mindset to stop blaming tech for everything, because tech is only as good as the people that use it.
Yep.
A,
Yep.
but B, that what we're talking about here isn't IT's job. It's whatever your job is called. If you're going to be HR, if you're going to be people, if you're going to be talent, if you're going to be work, whatever you are, it's your job.
Mm-hmm.
You have to guide and work with IT probably to make sure you're doing things in a safe, secure, etc. way, but don't count on IT to develop your data strategy. Like that's that's the worst thing in the world because they don't know what you need. And then you
Yeah.
go back and you blame the technology, you blame IT, or you blame the software vendor. We know what we need. Like it's our job to build it now. And we have to stop hiding behind the fact that I don't understand technology, so I'm going to bring my IT person.
Mm-hmm.
That
I
that
can't
doesn't
log in.
that,
Call
that
IT.
it doesn't work. Like bring them, but you have to take some accountability here as an HR functional leader.
Yep. 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 And you said as well that, like, digital doesn't equal technology. It's the same thing around, like, AI doesn't work without good data. So like if you're expecting it to be a magician and suddenly perform without good data, then the AI strategy doesn't work. And I think that's where it's going to be really critical to think about creating sort of that critical foundation of data. And what's really interesting about what you're saying is it's not leaving it up to the chief AI officer and the data officer. It's actually your domain expertise requires you to have data about your domain expertise, and you driving that strategy without reliant on someone else to come and do it for you.
Well, and I think that unfortunately, when it comes to AI, if just for a quick second, a lot of people's first exposure to AI within a company is Microsoft Copilot, which might be the stupidest tool in the world without good data. So I laugh at the number of people that I've seen pull up Microsoft Copilot embedded onto a blank Excel spreadsheet and start talking to the Microsoft Copilot about the spreadsheet. I'm like, there's nothing on your spreadsheet. They're like, it's not giving me any answers. I'm like, you're like, do you realize what you're doing here? And then what they're doing is they're saying that Microsoft Copilot sucks. And it's not that Copilot sucks, it's that IT gave you a tool, but they didn't give you the construct in which you should use the tool in order to do your job better. They just gave you the tool, or maybe trained you on, well, make file open, which remember I talked about voice a few minutes ago. Like, we shouldn't be doing that stuff anymore.
Yeah.
I should be just stating my I word intent. My intent is to do a workforce plan. Now ask me questions so I can create my workforce plan. Do you see those disco lights on you? Are we supposed to start? Are we supposed to start dancing now, or what?
I give me 1 second. I think it's slightly triggering. I don't know what it is. I just pulled it out. I don't know if it's my
I thought
assistant
that was like
wrapping me up.
a new
No,
added
it's
feature of
my
that means
my
we're out of time.
my assistant's like, wrap it up, Savage. You got to go to another meeting. Oh, it's exactly what you said. I find so that Copilot, blank spreadsheet, and then blaming the tool. When we first started building out in early Rejig days, what we would find is, and this is like just a little example of a similar thing to what you said, and I've got like a lot of empathy for what you're saying, because we would go in, we would have AI pulling people and AI pulling jobs, and then the AI would make the recommendation, and the matches wouldn't be super amazing, and the customer would be super cranky because they would be like, the matching's crap. And I was like, can I just show you the data that you give us? And it would be chef, Australia. That was it. Like literally, like nothing. And it was like, listen, we gotta like, maybe I didn't set expectations good enough in the beginning, because like the reality is, like, whether that was us or any other product, AI is not a magician, and without good quality data, it's not actually the front end vendor that's the issue, it's the data. And that was why we spent like 3 years building the work ontologies, because I'm going to make an assumption, Jason, that you're a customer. I'm going to call you and your data is going to be crap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you that my assumption is your data is going to be crap. And if I can get you 80% there because I already knew enough about your organization from my data, and then we harmonize your data to that, we know we can get it like an 80 plus, validation rate of that data. But what you said is so true, that like people will just give up in that moment of innovation, because like they're expecting it to be magic without giving it that good data. So I think it's a very relevant kind of, how do you set expectations around transformation in a world like that? Like if you're in doing all these digital transformations, like where does the data foundation sit on that journey for you when you're like educating and speaking at baseball games and all this good stuff that you're doing?
And I think that the goal there is to switch from human machine tension to human machine teaming. Okay, where I'm a human working with a machine, and what I don't want is tension between the two of us. Okay, like, I can't figure out how you make this work. I can't figure out why you're giving me the wrong data. What I want is, I want one outcome. In order to get to that outcome, we have to think of ourselves as a team. And what do I need as a team based on what I have as a machine? and my machine's capabilities, what I have as a human, to drive the best possible outcome. I think that that is a core, and you know this, I'm preaching to the choir. That is a core work design and life design 101 for all of us going forward, is to stop the human machine tension and think about the human machine teaming.
Mhm. Hmm. It's the thing you can kind of feel like I kind of try to sit a little bit in the side of like trying to like how are people navigating that, like you and I are super privileged that we're getting to be deep in these conversations every day, think about nothing else, but you can kind of see how this can be super overwhelming for folks who they now have to learn about data, they now have to learn about AI, they now need to learn about all of these different, while upskilling themselves, while thinking about the workforce. Well, there is a lot. But I think the thing that I'm going to take away the most from this session, and we'll share on the channel and after folks in LinkedIn as well, some of Jason's best posts, which are talking about this mindset and that shift, because I think that's the part we're probably not talking about the most. Like, I think that's the part where I go straight to technology, straight to tooling, but the mindset thing that you're saying has been the most valuable moment for me to maybe stop and think about how I bake that thinking into my way of working as well.
And
We've got one more.
Siobhan, just really quickly, if I could just go back to that really quick. The reason the reason that that's so important to me is that I'm going to go back to my kid story on that Chat GPT. Like, their response was, I'm never going to have to write a paper again. My response was, think about how good your papers are going to be going forward.
Yeah.
But it was all of it, that was the same technology. Does that make sense? That has nothing to do with the technology, the tool set. It all has to do with that I'm never going to have to write another paper again, or is every paper I'm going to write now going to be this much better? And that's where I would encourage us to focus on the mindset. If we go into the tool set with the right mindset, our outcome is going to be much better than if we just expect to do a lift and shift from how I'm doing things today to now using this tool. Then we're like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Let's get better. Let's not just focus on the basics.
Yep. Yeah, and I think like we're unfortunately could spend all my time with you, Jason, but we're running out of time because I've had a second flash of my get off the call. The one thing that I think like this once in a generation leader moment of time where it's just so important, I think, for all folks who are dialing in, for the folks that listen after, follow Jason on LinkedIn. We'll share. He posts a lot of really provocatively good thinking moments for me, where it kind of like takes you a minute to like think about what he's saying, which is great. So what we'll do is we'll pin some of that incredible knowledge. Follow Jason. You're most active on LinkedIn, right? Is where most of your content goes, is the best place to find you. Jason, thank you so much for sharing your time, your perspective, your insights. I love the way that you bring the human, instead of just going to digital transformation, you actually lead more on the human side, which is what I love about you. Thank you for being so welcoming to me and my babies coming to the US. I love it. And thank you to everyone that's dialing in, and everyone who's listened after. And thanks, Jason.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate
See
it.
you, folks.
Bye-bye.